6 o'clock on the computer here, so I will call this meeting to order. And we will stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. Here we are, right? Yeah, we try to open all our meetings that way, give us a sense of camaraderie, unity. You know, we're here for a common purpose. So the first order of business, and we actually now, if with Brian joining, we have a quorum for BZA finally. So very good. Jimmy did tell me he was going to be here, but apparently he's not made it yet. So the minutes from June, we didn't meet in July, so the minutes from June, hopefully everybody was able to review those, and if you have any issues or corrections, edits, additions.
Are those in this packet?
No.
Oh, I see. I'm not on that yet.
Right. Not yet.
It's okay.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the minutes from June? All right, you got a first motion?
Yes.
And a second? Did you see that?
I did.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, June minutes are accepted as written. Next items up. So old business. We've been talking about wayfinding. Dave went ahead and got some quotes from this company. We emailed them out to people, and then Pete printed them out so we can look at. We've been working on just kind of this idea of coming up with some nice banners to put up around town to designate where our historic downtown is, to point people in the direction of important places in town like Lambert Park or the public parking lot here at 12 East Michigan, or wherever else we want to designate visitors and residents alike to areas of interest in Clayton. So these quotes actually weren't near as bad as I thought they were going to be. Also, remember that one aspect, bless you, of our cost with this is going to be allowing local businesses to help purchase the banners and put their business sponsored by kind of a logo on the banner, or attach it to the banner. So it'll be an opportunity for businesses to advertise for themselves and help fund these wayfinding signs for our town. So this, ultimately, this price, this cost that we see on here is not going to be absorbed 100% by just the town. It'll be split between the town and these businesses that want to advertise.
How would they be posted, or where would they be displayed?
So right now, he's got, let's see,
Different places?
24, 30. He's got 24 altogether signs.
Yeah.
So we have poles that we've kind of designated in our, what we consider our downtown area. The poles will be, and then some towards our park, as well as.
I think that 112 is for the brackets. It looks like he ordered brackets and signs. Those brackets are $100 a piece.
Oh yeah, I see. So yeah, he's got 12 sets of poles.
Yeah.
12 banners, 12 brackets.
Yeah.
Okay. So all together, and so those will be, again, kind of our beginning steps of this, and then hopefully as we get businesses on board with wanting to sponsor wayfinding signs and put their own logo and advertising on those, then we can see that cost come down to be able to potentially increase that number.
This doesn't include, we would have to order the when the sponsors come forward and say, yes, I want to sponsor a banner. At that point, we would order those signs for them. But are the two grommets that they're getting, is that at the top or is that the bottom of the banner? Is that the bottom
It's
for
the bottom of the banner, right.
Okay.
And so, yeah, those would be automatically just put on all the banners regardless of whether we have a designated
Right.
sponsor beforehand.
Just so
that way it can just be added at any time.
Right, okay.
And those banners will fit on the brackets we have now, because they're the exact same size as what we have now.
So I thought the committee that was working with Dave did a good job with the design. I really liked that kind of design idea.
Yep.
Um, Certainly not necessarily set in stone yet, but we thought that that looked really kind of a nice little design to put up. Deb, did you want to see a packet? Did you want to? We have an extra one up here.
Sure. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Any questions, comments, thoughts on the banners?
Have they been ordered yet?
No, they have
Okay.
not been ordered.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much are sponsorships going to be? Is there any ideas on that yet?
We don't. This group gets to decide that. What do we? I mean, what do we want to? Do we want it to be a 50-50 thing? Do we want it to be, more like 75-25 with the business putting more than what the town does? Or, I mean, it's really our choice on that kind of an
So
idea.
they're sponsoring a sign for their business. There's 12 poles or whatever. Are you gonna order 12 of the historic downtown and they will hang theirs over it? Or how will that work?
Good question. So what will happen is this will be what every banner will look like hanging up, and then at the bottom there will be two little grommets put
Okay.
in the banner, and then so their sponsorship will actually hang off the bottom of it.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be the same width. It won't be quite the same height. It'll be
Okay.
I think he said 8 inches tall for the sponsorship tag, and so that will hang off of the bottom of it, sponsored by, and then whatever their business
All right, that
name
makes
or
sense.
logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that way, this doesn't have to ever change, even if the
Business.
business picks up stakes and leaves, and somebody else wants to put their name on that banner. They can buy a new little sponsorship tag and hang it on the bottom of those signs.
All right.
So with the banners being 110 a piece and then the sponsorship board being 30, it's at the 140, so maybe $100 for each business to sponsor one. Do you think that's a little steep? I know I would pay $100 for it. It seems like a good
Very cheap.
advertising. Yeah, it
Business.
seems cheap and it's very visible. And I think that would put the city's cost at $10 a piece. Seems a lot more reasonable.
Yeah, I like that idea that $100 per sponsor kind of an idea. Hi, Terry.
I'm gonna sit back here. Oh, well, okay,
I'm
I'll
sorry.
sit down. No, you're fine. I'd probably stink.
Oh,
Sorry.
Well, if you stink.
I've been at the food pantry and sweating like a pig.
Thanks for the warning.
talking about the wayfinding signs. Brian has. This is Brian, by the way. That's Terry.
Hi, Brian.
So I guess I didn't introduce everybody to the new people though. So Terry and Edith and Deb back there, who she comes in and hangs out. She's not part of our team, but we're gonna try and talk her into it one
You
of these
guys are
days.
just cheap entertainment.
Good to know.
And then, of course, Leanne's sitting behind you. She's on this board as well as the town council. And then Tom Stein over here on this side, and Diana. So she's our secretary, recorder person. And I'm Doug.
Doug who?
Doug. That's right.
At least we're not like Gilmore Girls. We're not like Gilmore Girls.
All right. Any other thoughts on that? So I like the idea of the $100.
I think the $100 sounds good. I would kind of do it a little bit different in the math, where the, the banner itself is 110 and where did I see it? The brackets are 100. So I'd do half and half, the town and a sponsor, but then give them the option that if they wanted to have more than one sponsorship thing, I mean, because I think D&D said something about they would maybe want one down by their place and maybe one at the corner. And then they would pay the $30 for their own little, so half and half on the banner, and then however many, you know, what do we call those, sponsored boards, charge them the $30 for how many sponsored boards they want.
Are you saying pay half for the town of Clayton banner and then in addition pay for their sponsor part?
Yeah, because I feel like Doug said, if a business leaves, they're not taking that sign with them.
Right.
They're leaving it here. It's our sign. So the town should be paying at least half if they're gonna keep it.
So as far as just the primary part of the banner,
This
that
part
part
right here,
50/50, and then
for
they
the
pay.
brackets and
Sure.
yeah,
And then the business that wants to sponsor, they would
underneath.
buy each one of those that they want to apply, however many they want to do.
It'd be $145 per sponsorship.
Yeah,
Okay. I like that idea. Anybody got any other thoughts on this?
what are the black zip ties for?
Just looking
I
at
noticed that too.
So they use the zip ties to help with holding the little end mounts on.
Yeah, so they don't slide off the pole. What I did is I drilled holes in them and then used clips for the big washer,
Right, yeah.
which it's a little quicker. You don't have to cut them off and none of that stuff.
All righty, very good. We will pass that on to Dave, and then our next steps, he'll figure that out as far as where we need to go with approaching the town council with this, or getting closer to an order. We can probably need to come up with maybe talking to enough businesses to get their commitment on just on a piece of paper. Doesn't have to be a legally binding commitment, just something that says, hey, I want to participate. Like Leanne has already gotten feedback from D&D Auto. They want to have 2 of those sponsors, but we can talk to other businesses and say, how many would you like, and just get an informal kind of feeling out there about what businesses want, how much they want to participate.
I'll be the neutral one.
Okay. Integrity. All right, next items on the agenda, and actually, I have one item I want to bring up that I forgot to put on the agenda. I don't know if everybody saw the plastic bench sitting in the entryway up here. That was the bench we got from collecting bags last year. And so Pete's going to put that over here in the parking lot across the street. But we have kind of this opportunity to continue collecting bags and participating in more programs if this team wants to do that. So do we want to start a new like goal of getting more benches or more bags brought in? This is a 48-inch bench. I think they have other sizes of benches. They have picnic tables. So do we want to, you know, reach out and or to this company and say, you know, we want to participate in collecting bags for another year and try to get something else? Do we want to do another 48-inch wide bench to put up? It's really.
How long did it take for that? I mean,
It took
over a
us
year?
11 months to get
11 months.
collect enough bags to put that to get that bench.
And what do you mean by bags? I mean
Plastic,
plastic
plastic,
bags, thin plastic.
any
Yeah.
plastic.
Walmart bags.
Oh, okay.
Sandwich
Minor
bags,
bags,
minor bag,
any
yeah,
plastic.
any plastic bags, even bubble wrap.
Yeah.
You know, like
I liked it because I could remember to bring it here, but I never remembered to take it to Meyer or Kroger. I'll leave them in my car, you know, but I remember to take them.
We pick up dog poop. You won't get mine.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Hey, at least you're
don't
recycling them.
don't
Yeah.
bring them in if you're collecting.
Yeah.
Okay.
For thousands of
Uh-huh.
them.
But yeah, just so do we want to try and continue collecting bags for another project like a bench or a picnic table or
I say sure.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of mine too, Rita.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know, how did you just notify the town besides on the page? I think maybe,
I never heard about it.
right, because I know my
Oh,
neighbors didn't know about it
we
either.
had it on our Facebook page quite a bit. There were some people that would put it on the chatter for
Right, but
Town of
everybody
Clayton.
doesn't look at that stuff.
correct.
Maybe on the board outside it has to be.
Yeah, the electronic sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can add it to that.
That's a good
Or
idea.
maybe at the post office, we could put up a,
I read that every time I drive by.
Right, and we can even put uh, it on our regular website as well, just as another option. We had 3 collection locations last
Library,
year: the library, Copper Top, and Miss B's Tees. The library has asked they want to kind of not do it this year, so they give them a break, which I can understand. On days when the library was closed, they were having people shove plastic
Oh,
bags in their
God.
book
Oh
return.
no.
I was like,
Hello?
yeah, not sure why people thought that was a good idea.
Because they went there to drop them off and they're done.
Right.
Remember, never got home.
So I was thinking, asking another business to take the one that the library had. So any
Maybe the liquor store.
the liquor store.
I mean, it's open
well, a lot of
It's
business.
open
or
every
maybe Stacks
7 days a
too.
week, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, I could ask Stacks
Stacks would be
also.
good.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Okay, so I'll kick that off and I'll ask, a couple of different places, the liquor store or Stacks or somebody can see if they want to have that.
Is Copper Top gonna still go on board with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't have the containers yet for the bags. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We do have them already?
Yeah, I just
Oh, I
kept the
thought they
ones
were
from
still
last year.
there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
There.
great. So we can bring them up anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Yep.
deal.
Absolutely. All
Or
right.
the food store.
Yeah, the food store could be a place. I mean, I can ask.
I'd end with them. It can break probably.
Yeah, and I can get more collection receptacles. They're just a kind of a hard plastic, box style thing that stands about 3.5 feet tall. You put the bags in.
I hate to bring this up, but we are gonna secure it once we place it in the parking lot, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, so they can't walk off with it.
Well,
It's, it's a composite plastic. It's very light.
Yes.
Right,
One person can pick it up and walk away with it.
Yeah.
But it's sturdy. So once he's gonna put some pavers down and yeah.
They'd have to work at it, I mean, it could be taken, but it, you know,
Yeah.
we got a camera that'd be right on it.
Well, if they need it, they need it, whatever.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, I'll kick that program back off again, and we'll start collecting for another year.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you for that. All right. So another part of what we've been working on is this Unified Development Ordinance and some of the issues in that. I did find out over the last couple of weeks or so, since we last time we met was in June, so I've been kind of researching some of this. This UDO came to us here in Clayton, a company that wrote a UDO for Pittsboro, just changed the name on it and gave it to us and said, here's your UDO. So that's why some of this stuff doesn't really fit Clayton, and why we need to modify it, make those changes. So we'll just work through it as best we can to do that. The email I sent out to everybody back in early July was, or mid-July. Anyway, I had four things listed on here. One was about recreational vehicles, which was on page. Looks like page 14 here. Dave asked if we could hold off and talk about recreational vehicles next month when he's back, just because he's got a couple of recreational vehicles and he wants to be able to weigh in on what we decide for that. So I said, sure. I mean, this is a marathon, not a sprint, so we can work on trying to figure those things out each month. So on that same page, we're in section 2.3. There's a discussion in there about garage sales, tents, roadside fruit stands, and Christmas tree sales. Which we don't have a whole lot of those kinds of things causing problems here in Clayton, but I thought we would kind of at least look at that, since it was something that Mary Strotter, the planner from Banning Engineering, brought up.
Mine starts on page 18. Does anybody else's?
Mine does
Mine
too.
switches
That's not
over to
printed off
18.
what he's talking about.
Is the other thing, okay.
Yeah.
It's
Never
the
mind.
email he sent.
Never mind.
All right. So anyway, just something to bring up. And again, we don't have to solve all of this stuff tonight, but is anybody noticing, you know, Pete, you as the town manager, or anybody else noticing problems with the idea of garage sales, fruit stands, places on the side of the road selling things in town, Christmas tree sales, tents, all that kind of stuff? Are we having problems with that where we need to address that in our UDO, or just leave it alone for right now? And if it comes up later on, we will return and address this.
I mean, are you talking about people that put up a sale every week, or just routine?
In
Oh,
general.
once
I mean,
the summer.
technically, with the way this UDO is written right now, says those individuals who do this are supposed to come in and get a permit from Pete
To
to
have
have a garage
sale.
sale, put up a tent for a fruit stand, do any of that kind of stuff. That's basically what this is stating in on page 14 here, is that these kinds of things are supposed to be monitored, and Pete's supposed to give them a permit, so they can't have more than, what is it, 2 garage sales.
Why do we gotta have a permit for a garage sale?
Well, that's what I
That's
thought.
That's just what's in
that's what we're
here.
trying to
Do you
address
have-
here.
do you
The,
have to-
the
I don't
UDO
agree
says
with that.
Well, I thought we was addressing if anybody had a problem with the garage sales, fruit stand, or Christmas tree sales.
yeah.
I don't know why we would have to have Clayton would want a, it's not speedway. Why would we have to have a permit for a golf cart, tree stand, or such and such and above,
It's
when
because
it's just a simple garage sale?
I think this is because it was from somewhere else, and that's what this place that
Right.
we got it
So
from
this
wanted.
other,
So we're redoing it for our town.
yeah, whoever the company was that put this together for
For
Pittsboro,
Lisbon or
they just
Pittsboro?
They just changed the name and gave it to us.
Yeah.
So this is in here saying you're required to do this if you want to have more than two garage sales a year. You have to have a permit. If you want to do Christmas tree sales, if you want to do a fruit stand or put up a tent to sell your trinkets, whatever, you have to have a permit. Is what it's saying. And I'm just like,
We don't need to
I
do
don't know.
that.
I mean, are we having that big of a problem?
We
Where
don't
we?
have
I
many
don't think so.
garage sales here that
No,
much
I
to
don't,
worry about.
I don't think
Probably
there's
my
any.
only
Unless
concern
you run into it necessarily.
would be people that selling food that they've made in their home. That,
Yeah,
I mean, because
it's
I've
just
wondered,
kind of like Rob said,
what if somebody got sick? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, is that a concern that people are like making food in
Which
their home and
that's
selling it
addressed
outside their
by
house?
the county health department.
Okay,
So we
nice.
don't necessarily have
Okay.
to. We don't have to tackle the same problem that the health department's already
Gotcha.
tackling.
Okay.
And so, or at
So we
least
don't have
that's
to
my
worry about that.
opinion.
Okay.
I don't know, but I think. Go ahead, Gail.
I would say I understand why this would be in there for a town like Pittsburgh or even this town. For someone, because somebody was doing it in the doubles every weekend, they were putting stuff out because they were buying it at auctions and they were selling it every single weekend. So that's actually some kind of, I don't know, I've heard this before because it's like a business type thing. If you're going to be doing that routinely, that would be the only way I could see this town having something that would stay, you know.
in
I
order.
mean, people
Right.
can have 2 or 3 garage sales a year, but if they're going to be setting up something every single weekend
Right.
to have like a store in their driveway
Yeah.
or,
That's
I
when you
get
get
but
that.
like
for
the
people
retail
selling their
prices.
vegetables from their garden out on a table,
Yeah.
I don't think we should monitor
I
that
don't either.
because
No.
that's kind of like a livelihood if you have a, you know, little garden and you want to put some
Yeah, extra.
zucchini or tomatoes out there with a little thing that says how much they are.
And I love getting to stop by and get it.
So, I mean, I understand like that kind of language for that, but I don't think we should, the only where that would go with if we're routinely
Are they
seeing
still
someone,
doing it?
no, they're gone now. I think that who they rented from, gone,
Oh.
Yeah.
and they moved. That's how I view that. That's just my own.
And it wouldn't hurt, I mean, if you kept that in there and had it say not more than 3 or 4 garage sales.
Right, it's not to
If
be,
somebody has
exactly.
1 or 2 garage sales, it's not gonna mean anything to them. It's when you get to being, like you
Like
say,
every weekend or
like
every other weekend or something
like
like that.
four of them a year or something.
That's doable.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody normally would have more than 4 a year.
just about.
Yeah.
I don't even want to have one a year. I've done it.
I know,
It's
right?
a
That
lot of
much
work.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
I think when it gets to be an excessive thing, and then it becomes almost like it's a business,
Right.
then
I
you,
agree.
it has to fall under some category that's like, okay, you're not just having a garage sale,
Right.
you're having a business. So
I don't think you
so
might just
that
sell
needs to
Christmas
be,
trees here either.
yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of it has to do with just kind of that regulation idea.
Yeah.
Is are we aware that
Mhm.
this is going on, and are we keeping track of, people
yeah,
who are maybe abusing this or not? I mean,
yeah,
you had to get a business license to open your shop.
right.
Then, so if somebody,
Mhm.
3 doors down starts selling the same thing out on their
Yeah,
carport and they didn't
Yeah.
go through that
yeah,
step,
That's
then
it.
that's not fair
Right.
because they're competing against
Right.
you and they're not following
right,
the rules that you
right.
had to follow.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I
and
can
like
see how
Copper
that.
Top, they have their little Christmas tree lot. I would consider that that's part of their business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
That's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
they're not
And that's
just
once a
putting
year.
up
Right.
a Christmas tree lot
Right,
Just
in
like
their
the
driveway,
pumpkins.
right.
you know,
Just
so,
like the pumpkins that they sell in the fall.
yeah,
Sure. All right, so we can work on just wording here of, changing this to kind of make more common sense with what we want it to do as far as people are allowed to have garage sales in their yard. Um, Excess would be more than four
Mm-hmm.
a year.
Yeah.
4 to 6.
More than six?
I
I mean,
said 4 to 6, but I'm not even going to have one. Okay.
Yeah.
right. I
I'm
did. I
just
mean, we want to
mentioning.
have just a standard, whatever's going to
Yeah,
work for us,
so
Mm-hmm.
and we
yeah,
can make. I mean,
I know. I'm just throwing
we
it
can
out.
make this say whatever we want it to say, so we're not
Like no more than four,
bound to.
and then if it's over four, ask for a permit or whatever number you want.
Consult the town.
Well, and four's a fair number. That gives you one every season that
Mm.
you want to do.
You can have one in your garage in the winter if you want.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, how about if we, you know, kind of table this, but let everybody spend the month just kind of thinking about those different options with this paragraph. Um, uh, Probably both G and H there and I, where it talks about these kinds of things. And then next month we can come back with, what our thoughts are on the maximum garage sales or, you know, fruit stands, that kind of thing. And just let us know what you think about that. And then we'll also talk about the RV parking and, issues related to that. All right. Moving on to this packet that Diana held up, that you have, so the district use regulations was the next thing that I wanted to talk about. Pete printed out all 9 of the district use regulations, so they're in here, and they're kind of, um, in my opinion, they're kind of disjointed and some repetitive, some have just kind of weird information to me, like residential R1. R1 states that the minimum square footage is 1 acre or 43,560 square feet. I don't know very many properties in town that
We don't.
are a full acre.
We definitely
We
aren't.
do have a couple, but not very many. So R1 to me seems like it's kind of got an
Right.
unrealistic expectation with that. Um, Again, I don't think we're gonna solve all of this in one sitting, so it's just something to kind of look at. Um, all of these, and one of the reasons I asked Pete to go ahead and print it out like this is what I'd like for us to do is a little homework. Take this home, mark it up, maybe ask questions. Why do we have, this standard here? Why do we have that standard here? On this, maybe some ideas. That would be real helpful. The very first page of this packet has some graphics on it. In the UDO, I don't know if, let's see which are, I think Highway Business District has an image on it. Yeah, on the second page of Highway Business District, there's this image on here. Nothing in this image has anything to do with Highway Business District. It's, I mean, there's just nothing in there that does that. And none of the other guidelines have images on them, other than also the highway business and town business both have that same graphic. But again, it doesn't explain any of the guidelines that are in that list before it. It doesn't show what we're trying to get people to understand about the guidelines. So I thought that seems like an irrelevant picture. And, go down to that. Yeah, so it's just a picture of, like maximum building height, and this slope and all that stuff, but nothing in that guideline talks about that. So I thought, let's work on designing some images that actually do fit our guidelines. So this group of images, just something I was playing around with on my computer. So there's some examples here of what we could do.
It
So if,
specifies here,
what?
it specifies here on a lot size of 43,560 feet minimum, with a lot size of 110 foot medium, gives you the specifications that the principal terrace should be 50 foot minimum, second 45. So that gives you an idea where that house would set or building would set on a lot that size, right?
Correct. Now, tell me which streets in town are
There's
a
none.
principal arterial versus a secondary
But this
arterial.
would require to new building.
Yeah, if,
Yeah, we'd have to tear my house down.
It would be related to new construction
Sure.
because everything here is antique. So this would be a new guideline where if you bought a lot or an acre, whatever that specification was, you've done got it in here, what your minimums are from road, etc. Leadways from power company to utilities, right?
Right. However,
However,
another part in there, what does it say under utilities
I
on
know,
that
but
page?
we got there, I just kinda skipped over beyond.
It's above the setbacks,
Front yard setback,
above that.
Above the
lot
floor.
width is 110 feet,
Well, it says
hundred and
what?
ten feet.
Well, water and septic systems, is that right?
That's based, I guess, on 43,560 square feet lot,
Which is 1 acre.
correct? So that would specify that that would be, these are specifications with that size, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So if you have a one lot, like a lot Clayton does, and then there's doubles like I have, double lots, then it would have to be in accordance. Are you gonna allow a single lot anymore? Or are you just gonna have double lots, which I think's good? That doesn't matter, I think, I'm just saying, it ought to have like a standardization like your late model,
Gilbert Wood.
Gilbert Woods. That's pretty standard for county. That beats what I got over here on Ohio Street, it sits right on the road, and the road's 2 foot higher than the yard.
Right.
Which brings me to another thing that we never discussed, is drainage and the complaint of the sewer, and then it don't get brought up ever again, and there's still a problem with the sewer, I understand, with fresh water getting into the house. And there's nothing ever been said about drainage and the problems that's causing that.
Well, I mean, we've been working on addressing drainage and I is what you're talking about with the
Correct.
sewer and stuff, so. And we just put in a brand new sewer pipe across from, Ohio over to Regan Street
Yeah.
to fix a major problem over there, so,
That still
yeah.
needs to be taken care of.
Yes,
The
it does.
Cause
concern
it's
was,
annoying me, Pete.
the concern is another pipe and everybody's
The
sewer.
road.
The road is a hot mess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He told
Sure.
me it'd be
Yeah,
hopefully
we're-
a week if this month.
you
We're,
tell him,
These are
there's
good
no rain
guidelines
excuse.
for that size.
There's no what?
A lot.
Rain excuse.
well, but we don't have any
Oh,
lots
no.
that are
No,
that
no.
size.
I'm sorry.
We don't have any lots that are that size right now. I mean, that's what I'm saying, is why do we have an R1 designation
Well,
if
you're
we're
gonna
not
have-
gonna run into a developer that's gonna put in a one lot size development?
Do you have anything for sale in Clayton that you are gonna sell to a developer to meet these classifications?
No.
Then why are we talking about it?
Well, because we wanna fix this. This is currently in our UDO, but is it usable? Are we, I mean,
Sure.
why would we have it in there if
If
it's
it
not
isn't
gonna fit
doable,
something,
if
right?
there's not a property to do this.
Yeah, and even what you were talking about, I mean, like I said, if we're looking at development standards, on the screen here, you can see it says utility requirements attached to public water and sanitary sewer.
Yeah, we don't
Clayton
have
does
water.
not have public water, right?
Right.
So that's something that has to be fixed in this UDO. We have to
Yeah.
get this updated. Principal arterial, secondary arterial, okay? According to the functional classification of NDOT, we don't have any arterials that go through Clayton. We have a major collector, which 39 is considered a major collector for them, all right? And then everything else in town, for the most part, is a local road. 500 south is considered a minor collector, and 0 is considered a minor collector. But everything else is local road. So we have, standards that mention all these other roads and setbacks and stuff, and it's like, is that really necessary?
Same qualifications on that
So
side.
these pictures I was suggesting that we add are just going to be a helpful guideline if, I'm, Mr. Smith who comes in and I buy a lot in town and I wanna build, and Pete tells me your lot is R3. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And I pull up this page on R3 and then I can see a diagram that shows me here's the minimum issues. So I have a side yard setback of 15 feet. I have a front yard setback of 30 feet. I have a maximum height of the building can be 35 feet. And then those kinds of things. So that's what these diagrams, in my opinion, are there to do, is to help you look at that and say, oh, okay, that makes sense.
A basic format.
Yes. So these are just some samples that I put together that we can critique and say what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and how you want to adjust that. And then we would put these diagrams in the UDO with the information that's appropriate for that guideline. So R1 would get a diagram with those standards. R2 would get a new diagram with the numbers from that guideline, and so on and so forth. Another aspect on these guidelines, up here just underneath the picture, it says minimum ground floor area 15,000 square feet. Some of these don't say ground floor area, they say primary structure floor area. So that's two different concepts to think about. Ground floor area is however much the first floor of your building, that's the minimum ground floor, or that's the minimum square foot there. If I have primary structure floor area, if I'm building a 2-story building for my primary structure, now all of a sudden I have to have 1,200 square feet altogether, including the second floor, instead of just the first floor. So that changes the mindset of this particular thing. So what Mary suggested is make sure that language states the same thing. So every one of these guidelines should be a ground floor area, not a structure floor area. Because that's the footprint that that building would have on the property. So again, another kind of part of homework for this month would be to just take these, guidelines, these structures, and just go through them and write on them and say, here's what makes sense, here's what doesn't make sense, that we ought to change, put in your information. Pete and I were talking earlier about for R3, the 30-foot setback. So I have a front porch and stairs coming off the front porch towards the front property line. Do my stairs and my front porch count as part of my setback, or can those be in the setback area, kind of thing? You know, so um, from what I looked up with construction standards, is they all agree that stairs have to be outside of the setback area, so they can't be, so the first step
They're included.
has to be 30 feet back from the property line, yeah.
Ooh.
Right.
Front porch or whatever you put. If you put in a accessory ramp for, you know, a disabled, like a wheelchair ramp kind of thing, that has to be also outside of that setback area. So, so that probably would, you know, I would think that that would be need to be clarified in there as well, maybe in our definitions section, but setback. Any other thoughts on those?
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead.
You're
Go ahead.
talking about, like the stairs, for instance. Okay, I don't have 30 feet of setback.
Well, you're
Huh?
grandfathered in,
Well, I know, but shush.
you're, but there's so many places
I'm
here
not,
that.
Jim. But if I were to put an access ramp in my yard that is already there on the front of my house, because I have like this little bitty porch, if my mom were to move in and I had to put an access,
Mhm.
I don't even have 30 feet. I mean, I have maybe 15 feet if I'm lucky.
That's what I was thinking, maybe.
And I mean, this ramp would take up, I mean, I'd have no yard left. It'd be like, here,
Right. What
I guess that's
what
the
it's
price you pay for putting the ramp up.
the
shush.
terminology that they use in the UDO standard zoning is, it is conforming non-compliant. And so you have a building that's been sitting there for umpteen years, however long it's been there.
Right.
And then we brought in a UDO and said, we're gonna adopt this. And your house doesn't comply with the standards that we put in there. We're not gonna make you tear down your house and move it back,
Well, thank you.
because,
Grandfathered in.
yeah, it's
Right, I
what,
get that.
yeah,
But
that's
I'm
another,
saying,
a slang term is grandfathered in, meaning that, cause your grandfather
Built.
built it, and so it stays it. Now, if you want to add something new, you cannot add something new and then say, that's now gonna be grandfathered in also, because your grandfather didn't build that new ramp that you're
Right.
building. So you can't bend the rules to say, you know, conforming non-compliant with a new structure that you're building.
That's
right.
kind of bad.
But that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. That's a real issue, whether you're grandfathered in or not.
Correct.
You know, if my mom's 82, if my mom moves in, I'm putting a ramp up, and I don't care what your rules are.
So, but that could fall under something else on the Disabilities Act, so
Yeah.
you have to have something on your house. Maybe it's not a permanent setup, but you know what I mean?
Right.
There is something where if you do have to have the structure, be able to get in and out of your house, that might be able to go past this.
I mean,
So
because I
that's
don't
just
even have the
something
option in the back.
to
I
look
have
at.
steps going in my back door. I have steps going in my front door. There's no, and my mom is still able and getting around. She's a little slow, but she still struggles with those steps.
Well, and
When
there's more than
visiting,
one way to design those
Yeah.
kinds of things. So
You
you can
might make it
design
to the
a
side.
ramp that doesn't invade that setback space. It's just a matter of getting
Imagination.
creative and coming up with, okay, how do we do this and still comply with the current
right,
standards?
the new,
I've done jobs like this where it would be illegal to do, like you're talking about here, but you apply for an exemption under the ADA Act, and they have to give you an exemption to build it, but you can get an exemption to do it.
okay.
Mhm.
You just have to apply for it. At least that's how it works in bigger cities. I know Indianapolis, you apply for an ADA exemption and you get
Right.
like automatically, you just show them a paper saying, I need this ramp, file the exemption, they send you the paperwork, and then you can just build away, so.
Yeah, in our UDO, we call that a use variance. And so you apply for a use variance and you come to the BZA and you present your case and say, you know, my 83-year-old grandmother's moving in or whatever,
that was my
Yeah.
question. I'm just wondering, there's gotta be ways around it.
There is.
So that you
Okay.
can, figure out how you live life without breaking a bunch of rules.
Right. And that's, I
You
mean,
could just ask them to put in a
and
sign.
part of it is just when we look
You're
at
right.
these kinds of things, why why did they come up with setbacks in the first place? I mean, what was their design standard, or what was their motivation to having that design standard?
Fire
So,
grips.
in 1938 was when the state adopted the zoning standard guidelines, which basically gave Clayton the authority to have this group. So you, as Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, have authority because of this rule. But it also stated, here's why you're doing this. Here's why you have certain standards within that. And I brought this easel back here in the corner behind Diana. So health, safety, and welfare. And everything that I've looked up and kind of looked at modifying stuff, it all comes back to, are we addressing health, safety, and welfare? So if we're talking about complying with, safety for an elderly person who needs an ADA compliant ramp to get in and out of a house, then that's something we wanna focus on. The other part of that is the setbacks that were put in there are, again, for health, safety, and welfare. So we put setbacks in place. Fire departments like to have a setback so they have places to bring their emergency equipment in. People pulling out of a driveway should have a setback so that they don't run over every pedestrian that might be walking down the street, so they can see them, or, those kinds of things. Utilities, we have power lines, we have sewer lines, and we have, all those kinds of things typically occupy, the front of the house, whether it's underground or overhead. So are the setbacks there helping us stay safe? So now, do we need a 50-foot setback, along, or a 40-foot setback, or whatever, along any of our, major streets here? Probably not. I mean, that's a long way. Pete and I got his little wheel out and measured 50 feet back from State Road 39, and we came about halfway down this building across the street here. And for even our town hall, the front entryway, we would have to remove it if we wanted to be in compliance with that. So that's a long distance to worry about. So we can change those numbers. Again, we just have to keep in mind health, safety, and welfare when we're making changes to this. Is, are we, putting people in danger if we just completely get rid of these? If we're dropping these numbers down a little bit, are we still able to have that health, safety, and welfare in mind to do that?
Do we handle easement issues? Is that us, this group?
Typically not. No, I mean, easements are usually between the town council and a property owner for utilities or other kinds of things, or a utility company like Duke Energy has several easements here in town. We have lots of easements for our sewer pipes here in town, but yeah. So this group doesn't usually deal with that, but although we should be aware of it as we're making changes to UDO, or we're addressing an application. Somebody comes in and says, I need a variance for XYZ. Well, you're trying to put your handicap ramp right over a sewer easement, which means if I have to, if the town has to go in and redo that sewer pipe, guess what we have to tear up to get to the sewer pipe underneath your ramp? So you don't wanna do that. So those are definitely things we wanna keep
I
in
have
mind.
massive problems with the easement landowners.
Yeah?
So whoever I need to tell will be appreciated.
Okay. Pete's your man right here, so, yeah. Alright, the last thing real quick, functional classifications. I sent everybody an email about NDOT's functional classifications. Like I said, we don't have any primary or principal arterials or secondary arterials in town. We have collectors and local roads. This UDO says subdivision road. That's not a classification by NDOT standards. So to me, might as well just get rid of that classification because it's not in the NDOT's guidebook. Um, but we can look at that some more next time. I'm running into almost an hour here, so I don't want
I
to.
just have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So this UDO you're talking about is current
Yes.
for the town.
Correct.
You had Pittsboro send you something and that was just the first thing that you showed? Or
From what I was told, and I wasn't here when this happened, is that the town hired a consulting firm, and that consulting firm asked the guy who did the UDO for Pittsboro, "Hey, can we make this for Clayton also?"
I
And
see.
so he just changed the name
That's where this
on the
came
top
from,
of it,
the
and
whole
he
thing.
put it here, and then we adopted it. And so it's been, I was told that was 2008 was when that happened. So
Oh,
we just have to work through this
so
now and
we're
find
reviewing
these
it?
nuance issues and
Okay.
fix them. Make it, let's modify it to fit Clayton instead of, someplace else.
So we've been going off this inaccurate claim for all this time.
Yes. So we're gonna fix that now. Now, another thing to kind of keep in mind is everybody should have a copy of our comprehensive plan. The UDO is actually a secondary document to the comprehensive plan. This is the primary reason we have a UDO at all, is to fit, to kind of implement the comprehensive plan. So when we're thinking about all the changes that we want to do with our UDO, we have to keep this in mind. So this kind of should be, basically the steering wheel for what we change in the UDO, is our comprehensive plan. The last one I had on the agenda was talking about a technical advisory committee. We can bring that up next month since it's already 7 o'clock. But the technical advisory committee is just a helpful group of professionals that we consult and ask if there are problems. So all of us on the planning commission and the board of zoning appeals either have to live in town or own property in town. And so, sometimes that limits how much information we currently have. Although we have some really great input from people. We have people who do construction and mechanics and, other kinds of issues with properties and stuff. So that's very helpful to our group. Sometimes you might want a professional like, maybe we want a a person who runs an excavation company or a septic tank company or those kinds of things to give input. Maybe a code inspector or a code enforcement officer, somebody who would just consult and say, yeah, this is great, or no, this is not so great. So where that would come into play is that if Pete got an application for a building permit and he looks through it and he says, I don't know, none of this fits any of our standards in our guidelines in our UDO. But it doesn't seem like it's necessarily way out in left field. It might fit. Then we would call in this technical advisory committee that we put together, and then they would go through it with their professional assessment kind of idea and say yay or nay. This does fit or this doesn't fit. Or it's just simply a matter of getting a variance, a use variance, or a matter of, no, this isn't going to work at all, kind of thing. So, but like I said, we can address that next week or next month, since it is 7 o'clock. Any questions?
How many people would be on this committee, you think? Three, four?
Technical advisory committee, you can make it as many or as few as you want. There's no, I mean, the main goal is they're there to support our questions. Is this going to cause harm to Clayton if we approve this building permit? Is this going to be easy, to justify that kind of thing? I mean, so when people come in and apply for a permit for things, and it's, I mean, even going back to when you owned the house over in Ohio and you wanted to convert it into a double, right? So there were questions on, okay, how is this going to work?
Sure.
So technical advisory committee could help kind of give insight on, well, here's why this is going to work, or here's why this isn't. So,
Is this volunteer or is this something that the committee's gonna get paid to
I
do?
It is
mean,
volunteer.
you can do it however you want. I know, like Plainfield, they pay theirs, but they pay all their planning commission people too. So
They have more money.
they do,
Yeah.
they do.
I assume, I
They have more
figured
people.
But
that I would be
that's
paid.
kind of one of those things they do. So,
There's a lot more
anyway,
people.
Absolutely.
thank you for your volunteer hours, all of you who are helping out. And I mentioned that Cynthia resigned. We really appreciate all the years she was part of this team for greater than 10 years. So she contributed quite a lot. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate that the town hasn't told you yet. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because
Sure.
we couldn't do all these things without your time and effort and energy. So, but with that, I'll stop talking unless anybody has anything else. Go ahead.
No.
You had some? Oh, I thought you had something to say. All right. Then nobody else has anything. I'll adjourn us for the month, and we'll see you in September. All right. Meeting adjourned.